Real quick before the video starts, I have a new channel based around green text stories on 4chan, and I'll be uploading videos daily over there. If you're interested, I'll leave a link to the channel in the description. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael, and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a throwaway account in the relationship advice subreddit. The post is titled, "I found out my husband hired my friend to strip at his bachelor party. 4 years ago, I got married to my husband after dating for 6 years. So 10 years total now. My friend Rebecca has been a stripper since she was 21. She stopped last year after getting married and is going to be a stay-at-home mom when her baby is born. Since our children, we are very close and we are basically neighbors. She lives at the bottom of the road we live on. Last week, one of my husband's friends visited at the same time as Rebecca, as I had made plans to shop with her. I forgot to cancel and she showed up. After she left, my husband's friend commented that he cannot believe we are still friends after the bachelor party. When I asked my husband what his friend meant, he refused to comment, and we got into a huge fight over it when he told me Rebecca had been the stripper at his bachelor party. I texted Rebecca in the moment that I do not want her around anymore, but she has not responded in a week. I feel betrayed by both of them, but I know it was just her job. I miss Rebecca a lot, but I am so hurt. I do not know what to do. Update. Is it too soon to update? I confronted them both separately and they both gave two very different stories. Rebecca says that my husband got drunk, groped her, and when she refused, he pushed her and started to yell at her. Apparently, my husband and his friends believe I shouldn't be friends with her because she led them on. My husband says that they did not sleep together, but Rebecca tried to initiate and performed oral while he was blacked out drunk. I am staying with my parents because I do not know who to believe here or if I should even believe either of them. All I have done is argue with my husband since the confession. I am left more confused than ever, and honestly, I just want to say fuck both of them. But if my husband's story is true, then he is totally innocent. But what if Rebecca is telling the truth? What if neither of them are? I am sick of them both. I have not stopped crying since arriving at my mother's, to be honest, and I do not think I can. Why would he hide this for 4 years? Why would she? If they both believe they are fully innocent victims here. My husband is a mean drunk, but he is always so soft-spoken, and I do not know if he can do those things Rebecca claimed. But I do not know how he acts around his friends. I have known him longer than Rebecca too, but I am all for believing women. I feel like by agreeing with my husband, I am denying Rebecca's story and side. Final update. This will be the last update. I would like to say thanks to everyone commenting. I realize I do not care anymore. I have done nothing but think about my husband throughout our marriage. My entire life has revolved around him, all my thoughts revolved around him, and I have finally realized. I have been the only one keeping this marriage going. I have been relying on him and forgiving him for such a lot of bullshit because I did not have anyone else. I gave him everything and that is not happening anymore. Maybe finding out about Rebecca just sped things up. Maybe I relied too heavily on my husband. I told him this morning that it is over. He has yet to stop texting me begging for a chance. I texted Rebecca and told her I no longer want her in my life either. Both have confessed to sleeping together and continuing to do so. My husband out of anger to insult me, and maybe Rebecca wanted a last fuck you. Rebecca's baby is my husband's, so to say fuck you back, I messaged her partner to let him know. I am devastated, obviously, but now we have to make plans about what is happening with the house and custody, and I cannot afford to continue crying about it. Rebecca's partner let me know at 6 p.m. that she has moved. He helped her move all of her stuff into my husband's house. It has all happened so fast, and I cannot believe I was so oblivious to it. Maybe I wanted to be. Once again, thanks for all the comments and messages. It has really made me open my eyes. It has all happened so fast that I do not have time to process it all. Looks like they wanted me to find out before she gave birth. A nice, happy family now. Honest Ingenuity said, 5 years later, I am sure it is all bittersweet to her, but I hope she is better off now. To this comment, Humble Confidence said, her child will have to see Rebecca, the husband, and their affair baby while they co-parent. I cannot imagine this being easy. Duty Bro Fist said, good grief, that went from 0 to post-apocalypse really quickly. This next post was made in the Ask Parents subreddit by a user named ResearcherTop. The post is titled, "Would it be bad idea to wear a fake ankle tag to prove a point? I am 16 years old and recently got my first phone from my parents. They told me that one of the conditions for having it was that I have to share my location with them at all times. This feels like an invasion of my privacy, but they insist that it is just for my safety. I am very responsible, I get good grades, I have never sneaked out, and this does not feel reasonable to me. I have tried having calm conversations about it and pointed out that I always tell them where I'm going, but they are holding firm. I do not actually have an issue with them knowing where I am, but the idea of them knowing instantly just by looking up my phone makes me uncomfortable. I have an idea for how to express how I feel about it. I plan to buy a novelty prisoner costume ankle tag, roll up my leg to show the tag, and tell them this is a symbolic representation of how I feel about the location tracking. Luckily, I saw the kind of costume I am looking for in a shop. The ankle tag is plastic, has a blinking red light, and straps around your ankle with Velcro. It is super fake looking, but perfect for what I want to say. But I do not know if this is a good idea. I want to make a point, but I am not sure how they will react. Am I just being disrespectful, or could this be a good idea? I just want to hear others' thoughts. Update. I decided to write an update in case anyone is curious about what I did. You can see my last post if you click my profile. In short, my parents said that me sharing my location with them was a requirement for me to have a phone. I plan to buy a prisoner outfit from a novelty costume shop for the fake ankle tag and wear that as a symbolic protest. A lot of people gave me good advice, telling me that it would be immature and would not make them change their minds. So I decided to be the bigger person. Instead of demanding they change the rules, I chose the other option, which was to just not have a phone anymore. I put the phone back in its box, rehearsed what I was going to say, and then went to my parents after dinner. I told them I appreciated the phone, but that I would rather not have a phone than feel constantly watched, and I handed it back to them. It did not go well. At first they laughed, but then my mom was very blunt with me. She said that they gave it to me as a gift because she thought it would make me feel like an adult who was responsible enough for a phone, but that it was for her peace of mind. She said I had only recently started to leave the house by myself and it was making her worry sick, and that she wanted me to not have a phone at all at first, but thought having my location made it worth it. I had wanted a phone for a while because all my friends do, and she thought giving me a phone would solve all our problems, and she did not expect me to make such an issue of the location tracking. She said she regretted framing it as a choice, but that she did so because she did not want to hurt my feelings and also did not expect me to do this. She got upset, and then my dad was angry at me for upsetting my mom. He told me I was being ungrateful and that I clearly was not ready for the kind of responsibility that came with owning a phone if I could not even handle something as basic as letting us know where you are. I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to be difficult, I just did not like the feeling of being watched all the time, but it did not matter. The mood had totally shifted. They sent me upstairs. About an hour later, they called me back down. They then gave the phone back to me but said they had re-evaluated it. I then discovered this means the phone was now heavily locked down. I basically cannot do anything on it anymore other than call or text them and my friends. They deleted all my social media apps and put a password on the App Store so I cannot download them again. Location sharing is still on, but they now check to make sure it is in my backpack before I leave the house. Now, if I want to use Reddit and such, I have to use my laptop. It is like I have the downside of having a phone but with none of the upsides now. I told them that I wish I had gone with my first plan instead, wearing a fake ankle tag, and they said they wish I'd done that because it would have been the funniest thing they had ever seen. As a joke, they renamed my phone in Find My as Ankle Monitor. I obviously get they are trying to be tongue-in-cheek, but it feels like it is at my expense. Now, I just wish I had never brought any of this up to begin with. If anyone has any ideas on what I should do now, please let me know because it feels like I cannot win. Mimsy Null said, I am so happy to no longer be 16. Bell Rofon M said, ends on a heartwarming note is not how I would describe this. This final story was made about a year ago by a throwaway account about a year ago. The post is titled, Mom told my wife not to include her in Mother's Day plans because her church is boycotting Mother's Day to put God first. My wife and I always take our moms to a restaurant on Mother's Day weekend with our 2 kids, and we sometimes do something fun afterward, such as a movie or hanging out in the backyard. However, things have been difficult for my mom since my father passed away some years ago, which led to a relapse in drinking that she had stopped for some time while he was alive, along with some depression. Things began to get better when one of her friends invited her to church. She has attended for almost 2 years, which coincided with her giving up alcohol again and improvements in her mental health as she got more involved with midweek classes and church support groups. However, that came with some negative side effects that led me to put up boundaries with her. My mom was not raised religiously growing up, but she began to change upon going, which later led to me making this post. One of the earliest things she began doing was criticizing the radio in my car for not playing Christian music when driving her to doctor's appointments, something I ignored because the driver picks the radio. But when she criticized my wife for not bringing our kids to her church's Sunday school, my wife told me. I told my mom that while we are happy that church has helped her depression and cutting back on alcohol, we personally disagree with indoctrinating kids, but she did not like my answer. She said I owed it to her to take them because her husband was not saved and would not be in heaven with her, and she did not want the same for her grandchildren. When I held firm on my stance, she said I was failing as a parent before we eventually dropped it. But when she criticized my wife's parenting for almost an hour while at a Little League game for our son some months back, a game I was not present for, that also made her cry. That led us to decide to set boundaries and take a break from driving her or telling her about sporting events for our kids. Our decision was also based on my mom's newfound willingness to pester my wife via text about who she would be voting for and why she would be voting right, for the first time after explaining how she wrongly voted left before going to church. My wife told her nicely that she did not feel comfortable discussing politics, but my mom ignored her and continued telling her who she should vote for. That finally brings me to Mother's Day. When we set boundaries, we took a break from bringing her to our kids' sporting events, but decided to keep holiday gatherings for Christmas, Thanksgiving, Memorial Day, 4th of July, etc. until she improved. But as of this weekend, my mom called my wife and told her that she did not want to be included in Mother's Day activities because her church was boycotting Mother's Day after the pastor's wife spoke about how too many women skip church to go to breakfast when God should always come first, no matter the holiday. So, for that reason, her church was having a Mother's Day luncheon after service where they wanted mothers to invite their families to church for the holiday. And she wanted us to come with the kids to hear a message about mothers from God. But when my wife said she would talk to me about it, my mom criticized her for always having to ask me and said she needed to grow a spine, which I do not appreciate. She also told her that our kids needed to be in church and that she would not spend other holidays with us unless we came, and I am quite aggravated with her at the moment. So in conclusion, here is my question. My wife thinks we should cut her off permanently, but I am in charge of driving her to doctor's appointments and getting her medication because she cannot drive. So that makes it slightly complicated to cut her off since her health depends on us. She said she does not want a nurse or retirement home. But if it were not for that, I am right there with her. My wife offered the idea of only me keeping contact for the sole purpose of medication and doctors only, but she is also unsure and suggested counseling on the matter, and I am open to doing that together. As we are looking into counseling options, I wanted to ask Reddit in case anyone else is a caretaker for a difficult person and how to navigate when the relationship changes, and I appreciate any and all advice. 1 hour after making my post, it has already been worth it. Others suggested having my mom be driven to the doctor and medications by church friends or an Uber, and I had not thought of that before this post. My wife has considered cutting her off in the past and blocking her, but changed her mind every time because my mom is in a wheelchair and wanting to try to be the bigger person. She is now ready to block her and move on, and the only reason I did not cut her off sooner was due to her being in a wheelchair until receiving suggestions to tell her to let church friends or an Uber drive her instead of us. So we no longer have to tolerate it. Mom was never like this before my dad passed, and she started going to church, but she kept harping on how she realized that her husband would not be in heaven after getting saved herself. So she wanted her grandchildren to go to heaven and said we owed it to her to bring them to church. When I told her we disagree with indoctrinating children, especially with how Christianity can affect your mind if they ever want to come out in the future, she called me selfish among other things, and she seems to be driven from losing her husband. I think this church has become an unhealthy coping mechanism for her emotional trauma of losing her husband after she refused counseling for her depression when we suggested it way back, closer to my dad's passing. Here's what is crazy though, her whole personality changed in under 2 years of going to that church and becoming a Christian. She has become fixated on hell and wanting our grandkids to go to church so that they would go to heaven and not be separated from her like my dad, who died unsaved, and she even flipped her political parties too and became very outspoken about it, whereas she used to hardly talk politics and was somewhat reserved. Update. Some people asked what we ended up doing, so I wanted to provide an update for those who helped. But before I do, there is one thing I want to address. Many people asked why I did not cut my mom out of our lives immediately after she made my wife cry at a baseball game, and I discussed cutting her off when it happened. However, my wife disagreed and said my mom needed support in 2 ways: seeing the kids and driving her shopping and to doctors and prescriptions. We set a boundary of no longer taking her to our kids' games, but my wife also said that her seeing the kids for holidays would help her overcome the loss of her husband, and she believed that losing access to their sporting events would make her change. However, the biggest reason my wife did not want to cut her off is because she is a Christian too, and that she was happy when my mom got saved and believed we should turn the other cheek, despite the baseball incident, because God loved us when we did not deserve it. So we agreed to just remove her from sporting events to see if she would change. Personally, I am not a Christian, but my wife and I think similarly. She despises how many Christians criticize gays and abortion and believes that God loves all people for who they are, and she said she would be supportive if our kids came out too. That brings me to what happened since my original post. After my mom told my wife to grow a spine and stop bringing everything she suggests to me in unity, my wife reached her breaking point and wanted to officially cut her off. And thanks to helpful comments that told us how to have her prescriptions delivered and suggested having one of her church friends or an Uber take her to doctors if she is going to continue verbally abusing my wife and family, I sat down with her and gave her those options, and she did not like anything I had to say. She reiterated how I was failing my kids when I told her we would not bring them to church for Mother's Day in exchange for her no longer spending time with our family as she threatened, because family time is not conditional. When I asked how she could throw away who she was before Grandpa passed, she reiterated how she regretted accepting Christ before Grandpa passed and that he was not in heaven because of it. So when she told me that she did not want me taking her shopping or to the doctor anymore, she said I was not her child anymore because I was preventing her from being around my kids. She basically disowned me in hopes that I would cave and bring my kids to church on Mother's Day coming up, and my wife and I have no plans to do so. It has been really hard the past few days since we spoke, but my wife supports our boundary and added one more reason why she hit her breaking point. During a recent argument between my wife and mom, my mom asked her why she would not bring our kids to her church or any church at all when my wife is a Christian, and my wife told her that she has not attended any church since 2016 because church in America has changed in many places. The church my wife attended began becoming more political, even to the point of endorsing the 45th president from the pulpit during sermons and occasionally making comments about gays and abortion. And she believes that church is supposed to be about love and not hate, like too many churches have forgotten since 2016. So for that reason, my wife simply reads her Bible at home and said she will never enter a church again outside of a funeral because too many churches worship Trump instead of God. And my mom called her a fake Christian despite only being a Christian for 2 years since Grandpa died, compared to my wife who has been a Christian for much longer. We plan to stay firm to our boundary on Mother's Day, but it honestly hurts to have been disowned. So if anyone has any suggestions about coping with that, I would appreciate it, although my wife has been supportive and we are trying to figure out how to tell our kids that grandma likely will not be a part of our lives anymore, along with the importance of choosing religion or not for themselves, which is why we are making the boundary with grandma. So if anyone has any suggestions on how to speak to our kids too, we would appreciate that as well. California Limited said, "This is the same kind of church that says the husband is the head of the household, so it is odd that the mother is mad her daughter-in-law is talking to her husband before making a decision." Wild Thorns said, "I wonder if this church boycotts Father's Day too." Overall, it sounds like it just became one of those toxic churches that take personal offense when your life does not revolve around it. I do feel in the long run, it will be better for OP to get proper distance from his mom. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, and thank you also to partner of the channel, GamerSupps. Use code DLAM to support the channel and get 10% off of your purchase, link in the description. I'm sure many of you like me have a hankering for daily caffeine, so go check them out. Lately, I've been a big fan of Titty Milk and Acid Rain, but they've got dozens of other flavors for y'all to try out. Anyway, thanks again for reaching the end, and I hope you all have an amazing passage of the next 24 hours.